What is going on, Locks Mob, and welcome back to another Locks DFS NHL Breakdown. I am your host, Addy Narang. You can find me on Twitter right here at reallyaddy. You can check us out at locksdfs.com right here. Get access to all the content that we provide for FanDuel and DraftKings. We got all access content season pass, which lasts for as it reads the entire year. You can do the same thing but monthly. NHL, NBA. Anything you're interested in, check us out right here. For those of you who are new here, welcome. For those of you who are returning, you kind of know what this video is. It's already in the title. It's sort of just a quick NHL breakdown of the slate we have on tap for today. That is Thursday, December 6th. We got a big slate on tap. It's like an 11 gamer, but we're ready to tackle it. So let's just get started with the center position. So just starting at the top, we got Austin Matthews at 8.3K. He looks like he's feeling like the cover boy tonight. I mean, Toronto's in an absolute smash spot at home versus Detroit. Their team total projects that. I believe they're up around 3.9, and they've risen. I mean, they opened at a minus 285 favorite. Now they're sitting at minus 310. I mean, this is a roll spot for Toronto. I don't know if you guys caught the highlight of that Austin Matthews goal versus Buffalo, that OT winner, but it was an absolute snipe of a shot. The dude is amazing. He's probably a top 3 talent in hockey next to maybe Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid. I mean, this dude is so good. He's got his old line mate back in William Nylander, who I'm going to talk about later, but I'm really high on him as well. But you're getting one of the league's highest rate shooters playing over 20 minutes a night. He's scorching hot. He's 11 goals away in 9 games from breaking Ovechkin's quickest to 100 goals record. So I think he's got that on the back of his mind. I am jamming in Austin Matthews when I can as my high-price center. Coming down a bit, I like Evgeny Malkin here at 6.7K. Pittsburgh's a team that's also projected to roll, as they should, in a really good home matchup versus the Islanders. Projected for 3.8 goals. And I like Evgeny Malkin to get a good piece of that at an underpriced price point. Another guy that I've been talking about in all these videos and jamming into all our lineups and cheat sheets is Alexander Barkov. At 6K, he's just still way too cheap home versus Colorado. It's a guy that's asked to do a lot more work with Vincent Trocheck out, as Vincent Trocheck is out. He's skating with Mike Hoffman and Jonathan Huberdeau. That is Florida becomes more of a one-line team when Trocheck is out, and you see that in the minutes that Barkov skates. I mean, he's been skating 23 minutes minimum, which is absurd for a forward. And he's also in a pretty good matchup at home versus Colorado, which should be a back-and-forth, pretty up-tempo game. Scrolling down a little bit farther at the center position, we have William Karlsson at 5.7K. The news on William Karlsson is that Max Pacioretty was out last game, so Oscar Lindbergh got that bump to the second line. I'm not too interested in him. I really like this Vegas first line. They're due for a ton of positive regression as far as shooting percentage goes. All 3 guys. Actually, I'm not sure about William Karlsson, but all these 2 guys, the wingers, Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault, they're way below the average in individual shot percentage. So I think these guys have some good luck coming their way. But the news with Vegas, with William Karlsson in specific, is that since Pacioretty was out last game, William Karlsson was on the first team power play as opposed to the second team power play. If that holds true and Pacioretty misses this game, we can reasonably expect William Karlsson to be the net front guy on a lethal Vegas first team power play. And if that's the case, I am obsessed with him. I like him regardless because he's going to be skating 5v5 with 2 of my favorite plays on the slate, Marchessault and Riley Smith. But if he's getting that power play work as well, I think I would be fairly comfortable line stacking these guys even on an 11-game slate. They're going against a Chicago team that is just dreadful defensively. They're on a back-to-back after playing last night. And they're, I mean, as far as expected goals against goes, I can pull it up for you right here. If we pull up expected goals against per 60 and we just filter it, we see Chicago is last in the league in expected goals against per 60. If we filter that to the road, which they're going to be playing in Vegas, which is one of the tougher places to play. Vegas, one of the more dominant puck possession teams in general, but especially on the road. I mean, especially at home. See, this is what we got to do with Corsica. We got to just be refreshing the page over and over again so that it loads. No worries. But yeah, so we'll filter this by away teams. Go to expected goals against, filter it, and we see Chicago over 3.08 expected goals against. That's bad. That's really, really bad. So I'm on a Vegas smash tonight. I think they absolutely roll. It's projected in their team total as well, which is also sitting at 3.8. So if William Karlsson's on that first team power play, I love him. If you want to pay down a bit, I like the idea of coming right back down here to Jeff Carter at 3.9K. He's still just too cheap at 3.9K. He's not the sexiest play by any means, but if you have 3.9K left to fill out your roster, whether that be the center position or utility, I totally think you're fine to just click him in. You're getting one of the higher shot rate guys over the past few years. He's not shooting the puck as much this year, but he's still shooting the puck at an above average rate. He's due for some good luck. In regards to his shooting percentage, and he's in a good matchup home versus New Jersey. Should be able to match up on those weaker Devils lines and take advantage of that. So that's enough on center. Let's move on to wing. Wing, as far as the high price options go, I mean, they're all in real good spots, but I think where I'm looking, if I were to pick one, would be probably Kucherov. I just love paying up for Kucherov. We've talked about him on his new line with his new line mates. I mean, it's been like this for quite a few games now. But when he skates with Braden Point and Tyler Johnson, Kucherov kind of becomes a primary shooter of that line, as opposed to when he skates with Steven Stamkos, who, by the way, is 5.9K and also in play in a good matchup. But 7.5K for Kucherov is a super fair price. I don't think I'll be going up here for any of these guys because I really like some of these mid-price range players, and I like paying up at center like I talked about with Austin Matthews. So I think for winger, I'm for the most part, I'm gonna avoid this high price range and sort of come down around. I think the first guy I'd really start looking at with real interest is Mike Hoffman. I love getting a shooter of Mike Hoffman's caliber at 6.3K. I always talk about, the key to NHL DFS is taking guys to shoot the puck. Mike Hoffman shoots the puck, and his matchup is just as good as Alexander Barkov, who I talked about earlier. However, scrolling farther down, we still have an unbelievably underpriced Artemi Panarin at 5.8K. He's more of a 7.2K player. He's in a good matchup on the road versus a Philly team that is got all sorts of issues defensively. We can see the total on this game is jumping from 6 to 6.5. The Blue Jays team total from 3 to 3.3. And I like this first line of Columbus with Panarin, Atkinson, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. But I think for my exposure, I just want Artemi Panarin, and I can see jamming him into all my lineups tonight. Scrolling farther down, the guy who I think is kind of my lock and will remain my lock for the next however long he's priced this cheap is Jonathan Marchessault. He's a 7K skater. His shot rate indicates that he's a 7K skater. He consistently has an I-Corsi for percentage above 18 per 60 minutes, of course, which means he just chucks the puck towards the net. And we want guys who do that. Like I talked about, he's stepping into a total smash spot versus Chicago. So Marchessault, pairing with Riley Smith down here at 5.1K. If you want to go full stack, pairing with William Karlsson at 5.7K. Get your full Vegas one line stack. And if you want to add a fourth piece to that stack, go with Colin Miller at 4.3K as he rounds out their power play. Load up on them. I'm totally fine with that. Maybe not all four of them, but hey, if it fits, I'm not going to talk you off of it because I'm that high on Vegas. If we keep scrolling down a bit from Marchessault, we get to William Nylander. The big news on Nylander is that he returns tonight. He will be skating alongside Austin Matthews at 5v5. So if you like Austin Matthews, I think pairing him with William Nylander is a GOAT move because William Nylander last year was one of the higher rate shooters on Toronto. He's been out this entire year, but he's stepping into a plum matchup like we talked about, home versus Detroit, a plum spot next to Austin Matthews, who makes anyone look amazing, let alone a guy who's as talented as William Nylander. So I love playing him. If you can't afford him, you can go with Patrick Marleau here at 4.7K. He's in the exact same role. He's on the second team power play as is William Nylander, yet he does skate on the first line with Austin Matthews and Nylander. Shoots the puck a lot. Skated 20 minutes last game, so he's way too underpriced at 4.7K as well. So I really like that. And if we keep scrolling a bit farther down, there's a guy here who I got definitely gonna make the cheat sheet as a noticeable value, and that's Alex Galchenyuk. Alex Galchenyuk, super talented player. He hasn't really lived up to it this year, but I like his positioning. He got moved over to wing with Nick Schmaltz taking over the center role on this first line. So it's sort of him, Clayton Keller, Alex Galchenyuk. And I like that. I mean, Clayton Keller is the primary shooter on this line, but Alex Galchenyuk is a talented shooter in his own right. He hasn't been skating as many minutes as we wanted, but if he can get up into this sort of 17 to 19 range, that's a lot for 3.5K. So, yeah, I really like the idea of getting exposure to him. We know Washington gives up goals, especially on the road, so I do expect Arizona to pot a few of their own, and he pairs really well with the defenseman that I want to talk about. And, with that being said, let's just move on to defense because that's probably enough on wing. Again, with the high price option at defense, I'm not overly interested, again, because I do want to pay up at center with Matthews, Barkov, Evgeny Malkin, those kind of guys. So I may be coming down a bit here, but I think Roman Josi is probably where I'm going to go if I do pay up. Stepping into a matchup versus Vancouver, he's one of the highest floored players in hockey as far as shots plus block shots go. PK Subban remains out, would just boost Roman Josi's floor and ceiling that much more. Just to show you guys what I'm talking about, look at those. That's consistency with minutes. That's consistency with shots. That's what you're looking for out of a defenseman that you're paying 6.3K for. So if I'm paying up, I'll go with Roman Josi for my dollar. Coming a bit farther down, Victor Hedman is way too underpriced at 5.2K. We already talked about how Tampa Bay is in a kind of a smash spot here at home versus Boston, projected for 3.5 goals. What I've noticed with DraftKings is very name sensitive. So just because Boston is known as a good defensive team, all these Tampa Bay players sort of got price dips, which I just don't understand because Boston, they're fine this year, but they're missing Bergeron. They're missing 3 of their key defensemen in Shara and Miller and McAvoy. So I like Victor Hedman to kind of smash along with the rest of Tampa Bay. So I think if you don't want exposure to Tampa Bay as far as their offensive players, like their centers and wingers go, I think grabbing exposure to Victor Hedman at 5.2K and just sort of going one off with that is a totally fine and a good route to go for tonight. Drew Doughty, another guy who's got a high block shot plus shot floor, and he's 4.7K. He pairs well with Jeff Carter. Don't know if I'm going to go there, but definitely a viable play. Guy I'm really high on, Colin Miller, 4.3K. Like I talked about, I think Vegas rolls in this matchup. And I think getting exposure to them at all facets is great. So Colin Miller to 4.3K, one of the higher rate shooters for defensemen, and should be in a position to put up a lot of points tonight. So I like him. And then scrolling farther down, the defenseman I was talking about, this would be probably the last guy I talk about as far as defense goes. But he pairs well with Galchenyuk, is Jakob Chychrun. Not a lot of people know about Jakob Chychrun and how fantasy-friendly this guy is. He's only 20 years old, but he is one of the top prospects on this Arizona team. He was a 16th overall draft pick, a super, super talented player, one of the higher floor defensemen you'll get, period. And to get him at 4K is really interesting. The biggest news with him is that he got the bump to the first-team power play, skating alongside Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Keller, Galchenyuk, who I talked about, and Nick Schmaltz. This is Arizona's first power play unit, and getting Chychrun, who's a high-volume shooter, and he blocks a ton of shots at 4K, I could definitely see him making it into my lineup tonight. And pairing him with Galchenyuk, I really like that as well. I think that's a super cheap way to get, what is that, 7.5K to get really cheap exposure to what should be quite a few goals in that game. So definitely interested in that for value. Again, with Goalie, it's as random as it gets. I'm not going to spend more than a minute talking about this. But we can go to line movement here. We got big favorites in Tampa Bay, in Toronto, in Pittsburgh, and in Vegas. So Toronto, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, and Vegas. So we got Toronto priced up, Vegas priced up, Tampa Bay priced up, and the Pittsburgh goalie, Casey DeSmith, fairly cheap, 7.9K. So that's an interesting place if you want to go there. Robert Luongo, he should get the win, you would think, at home versus Colorado. Colorado's a good team, but I do like Florida here a bit. So maybe Luongo for cheap. Maybe Aiden Hill if you think Arizona. Arizona is one of the sneakier good teams that is just missing a bunch a bunch of shots. I mean, they're just getting unlucky. Their shooting percentage is last in the league. You like that to regress north a little bit. So if you like Arizona to get right, then maybe you can go with Aiden Hill here versus Washington. I think that's fine. I genuinely think that's a fine place to play. And then, yeah, something around here. I think Marc-Andre Fleury is a high-price option. It's probably the safest bet for a shutout if that's what you're chasing, just because Chicago played last night and now they're traveling to Vegas. But, yeah, so that'll wrap it up for this Locks NHL Breakdown. As always, if you want to keep interacting with me after this video ends, you can find me on Twitter right here at RayleighAddy, or you can get yourself a pass. If you cop an NHL pass, we'll add you to our NHL Slack, as with the NBA. But hop in there. I'm always going to be in there. I'm definitely going to be in there every night, about a couple hours before lock. I'll be in there through lock, answering all your guys' questions that you may have about your own DraftKings lineup or what I've come up with on FanDuel, your research, anything you may have found that you want, some critique on. You can go ahead and slide that my way, and I will most definitely get back to you. But yeah, thank you guys for checking out this video, and I will see you all tomorrow.